Namaste, namaste. Welcome to another edition of Community Cop. I'll be your host. My name is Michael Grays, co-founder and member of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care. Hope all is well with you dealing with this weather and the inclement conditions that we find ourselves in. As my brother who made his transition shortly a little over a year ago, James Padnor said, this is an hour of truth and real talk. This is where truth and real talk occurs. So we're coming to you from Manhattan Neighborhood Network. You can reach us by, your local carrier or just on the internet. Tell a friend or foe, as Noel always says. And my three co-hosts are all on Community Cop assignment. So hopefully all is well with them. Wish you were here. Miss you so much. And this will be the second week in a row that I have to complete my assignment, which now is to do this show. And hopefully the gang will all be back together real soon. From the outset, want to let everyone know, and hopefully it's good news to everyone, that the police officer in the Gurley shooting in the Pink Houses, the Kyle Gurley shooting in the Pink Houses, has been indicted, from what we understand, about a half an hour ago. He was indicted in Brooklyn by a grand jury under the direction of Ken Thompson, who's the Brooklyn DA. So hopefully we can gather from that there is a difference in Brooklyn as opposed to Staten Island, where obviously in Staten Island the evidence was overwhelming to get a true bill. It did not happen. And certainly the evidence was overwhelming in Ferguson. No true bill. So it's safe to say that at least it's different in Brooklyn. By no means are we waving the victory flag in Brooklyn at all, because there's just an indictment. There's no rigorous prosecution that we see yet. That hasn't happened, and certainly a conviction hasn't happened, and certainly sentencing hasn't happened. So all we have at this moment is a conviction, and certainly that's better than nothing as of now. So we're happy about that. Now, I just did a little earlier, I just did 30 frames a second, and that's a show that our producer, Nat Wood, he does that show. And he has an excellent show that comes on 2 o'clock. And by the way, you need to see it, 2 o'clock on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. It's a very outstanding show, and we just did a show. And basically, we're talking about history because this is African Heritage Month, and we'll continue that today. I was going to focus on some current events, but in retrospect, I decided that since this is African Heritage Month, that we would just walk down the corridors of history a little bit. And this was the last second thing after the segment me and Nat did. I decided to just scrap the current events, and we'll talk about some things that we need to talk to in our community. And then if you want to, during the Q&A, you can, on a call-in segment, if you want to talk about anything current, then fine. That's your pleasure and mine. So from the outset, had a very interesting debate that had transpired this past weekend at Clark House. And that's the house dedicated to the memory of John Henry Clark, the great master teacher, historian extraordinaire. And it was being done, from my understanding, it's being done under the leadership of Simotep, who also does an outstanding and great work and makes great contributions to our people all over the diaspora, and also does so much for people that are in need that you need to familiarize yourself, if you haven't yet, with CEMOTEP, because they're always doing great work. And during the call-in, whoever is debating next week, Sunday, it's going to be for the next 10 or 11 weeks. It's going to be a debate every Sunday at Clark House at 3 o'clock, 286 Convent Avenue in Harlem. So we should just make a note of that, and certainly, if it's convenient, to make those debates, because it's very, very informational. Now, this past Sunday, there was a debate, as I said, relative to Malcolm and Dr. King, and I had represented the Dr. King side of the debate, and I thought about it in retrospect, and I knew that these were two giants in our community, and their shadows loom large, and I just thought that I would talk about both of them, and at the same time, if you want to juxtapose it to anything current, certainly you can, and there are a lot of things we could draw from it that's instructional at this time, and certainly even into the future, because this is how great they were, that their words did not only instruct their contemporaries, but certainly things that they did certainly are just as relative and germane today as they were back in the time, and both of them were killed well before their time. Both of them were 39, and one was killed in 65, and the other one killed in 68. But I won't focus in on the assassination aspect. Most of the times that's done on their assassination dates, and on their birthdays you talk about their life, their career, their impact. So I'll just talk about Malcolm a little bit, and then I'll talk a little bit about Dr. King, and then hopefully we can open up the phones early to anything you would like to talk about. With Malcolm, obviously, you know, Malcolm was born in Omaha, Nebraska in 1925, and he was the son of Garveyites. His mother and father were not only card-carrying members of the Garvey movement, but they were a part of that engine that really thrust that Garvey movement worldwide. As they traveled, they spread the seeds of Garveyism wherever they were. And in that was a great foundation that was being built for Malcolm. And the early Malcolm, as we well know, there came a time after the murder of his father, and it started the breakup in the family, and Malcolm became errant in his ways, as would many given those conditions, and had to really pull himself up by his bootstraps, because he was eventually incarcerated, and this shows you the depth of Malcolm, that in his incarceration, all that he had learned, on school, because I think he went to the 8th grade. I don't think he graduated from 8th grade, but he did go to the 8th grade. It seemed like he lost all of his writing skills and could barely write when he tried to construct a letter to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad after his brother had introduced him to the faith. And Malcolm studied words, the history of words, went through, as we well know, the entire dictionary, and became such a brilliant man. And obviously that was all in him already. It just had to be brought out. And it was brought out, and Malcolm became a giant in his own right, well-spoken, could speak to and out-debate anyone at an Ivy League college or whatever your discipline might be, whether it was history, sociology, poli-sci, whatever it might be. Certainly you met your match when you met Malcolm, because Malcolm was just that dynamic. And certainly Malcolm had teachers. Obviously, the main teacher was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. And also he had other Harlemites like the Dr. Benz of the world, the Dr. John Henry Clark and others, you know, as a reference point. No one can claim the breadth and depth of Malcolm relative to how you can pull yourself up, start at one point, and this is what energized so many people, whether it was in a city, whether it was in the North, or anyone that studied his history, that it shows you possibilities for Malcolm to have gone from literally nothing to elevate himself on the world stage. Many of us have challenges, and those challenges can be overpowering and overwhelming. Well, Malcolm had everything, whether it was a broken family, being thrust out of his house, reform school, things like that, had to eventually, by the grace of God, at least hook up with his sister, sister, I'm not going to say half-sister and all that stuff that when you read stuff like that, it says, but, had at least a home and some security in that. And Malcolm went on to still end up incarcerated anyway, but when he went into the Nation, and the Nation, he got the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, there was a transformation in his life. And I'm not talking about the outward transformation, like now someone is just doing better, sounding better, got rid of the process in his hair. I'm talking about a real internal change where Malcolm was now a warrior for our people, and his whole life, his existence, every fiber in his being was focused in on attaining knowledge and information and using that knowledge and information to better himself and to better our community. And Malcolm came out of jail running. I mean, he hit the ground in a way that you couldn't even imagine unless you were there in those times and understood that power and magnificence that the Nation was able to transform human lives and change you from one existence where you were literally exploiting and victimizing the black community and turn them around into someone whose sole focus was the elevation, freedom, justice, and equality for our people. Malcolm was always streetwise and remained that, his entire life. But to take on the academics and the history that Malcolm exemplified, and Malcolm, as Ossie Davis called him, our shining black prince, he was, in fact, our shining black prince. And he was our manhood. And as I said on the prior show, and actually I said it this weekend also, Malcolm was able to show that type of manhood because that's what the Nation was. The Nation was an organization that from day one, they worked on that inner man. It made that inner man something. So you never saw brothers in the Nation fooling around and acting silly, engaging in buffoonery, play boxing and fooling around in the street. Always serious, disciplined, upright. And that's not to say that they don't smile, because certainly they smile and they laugh with you. Very sociable and decent, health conscious relative to eating habits, in the way they carry themselves, their disdain and avoidance of drugs and things that are injurious to the body, on the money, with all those things. And that manhood was serious, and it is to this very day. One thing you know about the Nation, and you read Malcolm's autobiography, he was impressed by the fruit of Islam. When he saw them brothers, and it's something, to this day, when you see them brothers in the nation. I remember like yesterday seeing, whether it was Minister Farrakhan, whether it was Dr. Khalid when he was the minister of Mosque number 7. Very impressive when you see those brothers roll out. There's something to behold. And that discipline, that high level of discipline that our community needs so much was there and present. Malcolm was able to galvanize our people at the drop of a hat. Some say that when Malcolm came into the nation might have been 400 strong. I've heard that. I mean, some have said more than that. Some have said it might have been 4,000. But I'll just say somewhere between 400 and 4,000 for argument's sake. Well, Malcolm turned it into an organization, probably at least 50 to 75,000, maybe 100,000, depending on your figures and who you consider diligent members and those who were sort of on the periphery. But Malcolm built that organization. It was his discipline, his dexterity, and his commitment to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, where Elijah Muhammad gave him wings to fly, and boy did Malcolm fly. Malcolm was able to see world events on a level that during that time people didn't quite see. He was talking about liberation struggles in Africa. Certainly Malcolm was ahead of other civil rights leaders relative to the war in Vietnam and things like that. Malcolm had a position on unwed mothers. Malcolm talked about miseducation and what education really is. Malcolm had great debates with college professors and the like. Malcolm met with heads of state, African countries, Arab countries. Malcolm met with Fidel Castro. So Malcolm was not only well-rounded, Malcolm was in a position to change the dynamics as far as geopolitics, was able to do all those things. Malcolm did a lot in a short period of time. Malcolm, I think, got out of jail in 1952. So between 1952 and early 1965, when he was murdered, that's just a little more than 12 years. He was on the march, and in that time was able to do so much. And Malcolm is a living example for all of us. Malcolm talked about self-defense, that we have a God-given right to defend ourselves, and he's absolutely correct. We do have that God-given right. And Malcolm said it wasn't intelligent. It wasn't an emotional response. It was an intelligent response to defend yourself, because that's the best thing that you have is your life. So, but Malcolm laid down his life. Malcolm knew that his time was short. Malcolm knew it, saw it coming, basically predicted it. But he's a giant, and we should never forget the contributions of Malcolm. That movie did not do Malcolm enough justice. Yes, it showed you how they were so organized and they were able to go to a Harlem precinct and demand medical attention for one of the brothers in the nation. But Malcolm was much bigger than that. Malcolm was much bigger than, by any means necessary, that slogan that's attached to Malcolm. But that's a very powerful saying. Malcolm said things like the Ballad of the Bullet, but that's in our history already, going back to Freedom's Journal, going back to brothers even before emancipation, before chattel slavery had ended. They were calling for that, but certainly the Ballad of the Bullet was something that was discussed. The ballot access was something that was discussed. by leaders going way back after the radical Reconstruction, you know, ballot access, and even Dr. King had talked about that in 1957 when he was given an award by the NAACP after the Montgomery Improvement Association. He talked about ballot access because there's a big difference in ballot access and voting. You know, and there's a big difference between the two. Voting is just the exercise when you pull a lever and choose who you're going to vote for. But when you talk about the ballot, you're talking about being able to, in fact, you choose who's going to be running. And more important than that, you have to remember with the ballot, let's say in 2 years from now, there's going to be a presidential run, and a lot of people will be vying for the presidency in 2 years from now. Now, the ballot, who's going to win, is in those primaries when you have New Hampshire, we'll be checking it first, Idaho, South Dakota, North Dakota, Arizona. Places like that will have their primaries first, so that's where the candidates get their momentum because of their ballot access. Well, there's not many black people in those places, and that's not accidental that the initial primaries and caucuses are in these places that are literally lily white with 1% or less black folks. So who's ever going to win, you have to literally win those primaries to get the momentum, and the momentum will get you the investors who will invest in your campaign so you could eventually be successful. So it's the big difference, as I said, in the ballot and voting. Now, let me just say a few things about Dr. King, and then we'll open up the phones. Dr. King was the voice of the civil rights movement, the preeminent leader in that movement. And there were many, and they certainly need to be discussed, Kwame Ture and others. They all played a major role, but the person who was able to galvanize not only media attention, but was able to galvanize the everyday person, whether he could walk into a pool room, whether it was a bar, wherever black people were. Church people obviously were the foundation of SCLC, and church people probably were the foundation of the Montgomery Improvement Association. Dr. King did not, by the way, start the Montgomery Improvement Association. He became its leader and spokesperson, but that boycott itself was started by people like Fred Gray, E.D. Nixon, and others. Dr. King joined it, and they were the ones pushing it at that time, and he joined it and eventually became its spokesperson. But all of them at that time were card-carrying NAACP workers and executive board members. And Dr. King was an executive board member also at that time. So we're talking about a person that rose out of that. Dr. King did not have to participate in civil rights. He was born middle class. His father, Michael King, had was able to be a homeowner as opposed to his father, which was a sharecropper. You know, Dr. King's grandfather on the maternal side was a sharecropper and not one of much means. And the reason why I said his father's name was Michael King is because in 1931, Dr. King's father went to Germany in 1931 when Dr. King was only 2 years old, and he was so impressed by Martin Luther when he went to Germany that when he came back, he changed his name from Michael to Martin Luther. So he became senior, and he changed his son's name from Michael to Martin Luther King Jr. So there you have it, Martin Luther King. And so when you see the movie Selma, it shows you a scene of Martin Luther King when he was arrested and beaten up, by the way, in the Montgomery bus boycott. When they put him in the cell, and he was thinking about what to do because he grew up very unsure of himself. He contemplated suicide, and he felt inept at many times. That's why it wasn't any arrogance as far as thinking he was the leader. He felt inept and not capable of doing the things that eventually he did. And the reason for that is because when he was about 11 years old, he tried to commit suicide. And he tried to commit suicide because he was being sort of rebellious in his house and wasn't exactly listening to his parents and even questioning Christianity at that early age, 11, 12 years old. And he went someplace he wasn't supposed to go, to a parade. And when he came back, he got the bad news that his grandmother had passed, and he felt so bad about it and somehow maybe internally blamed himself that he went upstairs and tried to kill himself by jumping out of a window in his house, the second floor. And and this is why the FBI, Hoover knew all these things about Dr. King's ineptness, how he felt he didn't have that self-assuredness about himself, and definitely tried to goad him into taking his life several times. So Dr. King rose from that Montgomery bus boycott and became the preeminent civil rights leader. And the first successful bus boycott was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Dr. King learned of it because the Times covered it, which was at least a year before the Montgomery bus boycott. But Dr. King learned of it and used that tactic, and the spirit of nonviolence stayed with him the rest of his life as a method. But he was able to touch human lives, able to move people forward, and became the real voice of the civil rights movement, as much the same way as Frederick Douglass was the voice during the years of anti-slavery, fighting chattel slavery, and then later on Booker T. Washington, W.B. Du Bois and others became spokespersons, and certainly the dynamic Marcus Garvey himself was on the scene doing similar things, but the baton was being passed constantly, and it went actually, you can't, forget the great Adam Clayton Powell Jr., Harlem's own. And so Dr. King became that voice, that seminal voice, and was able to do great things and make great changes. Dr. King sacrificed that. He didn't have to do that. He could have been the dean of a university, could have been a president of a university, had a big bougie church, didn't have a worry in the world, but he chose to fight for us and to give his life in the elevation of our people. Dr. King sacrificed a lot when he spoke out against the war in Vietnam. His friends, his internal leadership group, the Inner Circle, was against him doing that. All the unions, the major unions, including the Auto Workers Union and others, other civil rights organizations, the Black Baptists, all of them unilaterally condemned Dr. King and told him not to do what they knew he was going to do, but he felt he had to do it because it was God's way. And one thing about Dr. King, if Dr. King felt strongly about something and somebody like Kwame Ture would meet with him and would take those hours and show him the error of his ways and show him that it would be better to support this as opposed to that, Dr. King was big enough to come out of that meeting and say, brother, you're right. And that's what people like Kwame Ture, then known as Stokely Carmichael, was able to do, was able to talk to Dr. King and win him over to the side to a point where he was able to speak out against the very president who has signed the Civil Rights Act 64, Voter Rights Act 65, and that Housing Act in 66. And so Dr. King sacrificed a lot, to do that because he literally squandered so much to make that happen that that's real sacrifice when you have so much to lose, but you feel that in that prophetic dimension, you have to do what God is telling you to do. And that's what he did. And at that point, I'll stop right here and open up the phones. It's 5:32. So let's open up the phones, and whatever's on your mind, it doesn't have to be about Dr. King and Malcolm. If you want to talk about something current, you can. First caller, where you calling from? Welcome to Community Cop.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Michael Kareem from Harlem.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yes, sir, my brother. Brother, you need to be teaching, brother, because you got the history down pat.
Thank you.
First of all, Malcolm and Dr. King, what they brought to our people is still showing and going on today, because if you look at Ferguson, and if you look at some of the young people out there in the street and what they're saying the same thing that Malcolm and Dr. King was trying to explain to our people. We also got to understand, brother, who our enemy is. Our enemy is the same enemy that was the enemy 500 years ago and still doing the same thing to our people today.
Yes, sir.
Also, brother, I want to ask you what you think about, given we got a new assembly speaker, what about getting our history put into the school systems in New York City? And I would appreciate if you and your organization and other brothers like ministers and reverends think about that and try to get that done, starting with signatures. I would like for you to comment on a little bit of it if you can. If not, brother, be blessed.
Well, I thank you for the kind words, and I wish that you would have stayed on, because I know you are a true lover of Malcolm, and I wanted to know what you thought of Dr. King, but you said that both of them were great, so I guess that'll suffice. I don't think that this current speaker is in a position to do that, nor do I think, based on that smooth transition, that how he was able to get in with the backing of Governor Cuomo and others, I do not see him being of that ilk that he would want black history taught in the schools, and he might even run away from you even asking him that question. So I don't think that he's in a position to do that, but if people think that that's worthwhile, going through him to try to make that happen, it's always good to know our history, because Dr. Jeffries and others that have given their whole life to preserving ancient Kemet and Africa itself and our traditions and history, certainly they would be all for it. I remember Dr. J talking about the history, the curriculum of, the curriculum of education. I forgot the way it was said. So that things like that is very important, and so we should always try to make that happen. But next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
How you doing, Mike? Brother Ray?
Oh, brother, good to hear from you.
Good to hear you. I tell you, Malcolm X lives at the UAM, 1061 Atlantic Avenue, every Wednesday. Malcolm X lives. Can you give me an analysis if Malcolm and King had got a little closer at this time in history, and that what they would say about these present day flunkies and disgusting leaders that are running around taking all these coins and selling out? Can you give me analysis on that for Black
Okay,
history?
stay on the phone. Okay, from the outset, I would say that certainly there are forces seen and unseen that keep certain leaders apart. They keep certain organizations apart. They demanded that the wall be broke down in Russia, but they put walls between us here. As you well know, the great fighter Jack Johnson, who was a hell of a man. Brother, I'm getting replay back. Ray.
Between us here.
Ray, we getting feedback here.
The great fighter.
Huh?
Ray, we getting feedback. You can't do that, brother. The fact is, they build walls between us. Jack Johnson was not able to publicly be seen with the great brown bomber Joe Louis. Publicly, he was told that it was forbidden for Joe Louis to be seen around him. They could only be seen in private, and that was his hero. Malcolm and Dr. King, those short, well, there was supposed to be a meeting between the two at Ossie Davis' house, but that photo that you see, it should have been 1,000 photos like that, because they should have met regularly, and obviously you saw them coming more together, you know, and Dr. King raised the question, are we integrating into a burning house? And certainly Malcolm had spoke at in the presence of Coretta Scott King at their church. And so though there was a coming together, and Malcolm had said he was going to work closer with the civil rights movement after he was no longer in the nation. So I thought it was a coming together. And I'll tell you one thing about Malcolm and Martin Luther King: they would not have a bottle of Viagra in Rubenstein's house. I'll tell you that much. You wouldn't find a bottle of Viagra with their name on it in Sanford Rubenstein's house, and all those bloody condoms, and a victim claiming that, and a victim alleging that she was raped. You wouldn't find their Viagra in a place like that. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hotep.
Hotep, brother. That's Brother Vernon, huh?
How's it going?
Good, brother.
You're doing a great job, man. I just wanted to call and love to hear your history. And for those that don't know, this is Vernon Wells, from one of the co-founders with you, brother, from 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement.
Yes, sir. Good to hear from you, brother. What's up?
Listen, I don't know if you talked about it earlier, because I got in about 10 minutes after the program started. But one of the issues going on here is this Commissioner Bratton and PVA Rana, Patty Lynch, are going to be lobbying for resisting arrest to be changed from a misdemeanor to a felony. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I heard about it, and I'm not surprised at all.
And this is one of the things that I feel the community has to know about, and as far as a lot of things that I'm looking at, the possibility later on of educating the community on what 100 Blacks need to do, along with, community organizations, to be informed and aware of how detrimental this can be to the community. Because when you're dealing with felonies, it's enough that we get these trumped-up charges with felonies. Now, all of a sudden, resisting arrest and failure to comply. I mean, brother, you could be stopped for a traffic infraction for something that you don't know, and then the next thing you know, they stopping you and they locking you up. And if you don't comply, you got a felony.
Well,
and
Vernon,
folks have to be aware of what's going on, and
well,
this
Vernon,
is one of the fights that we definitely need to be on. And I plan to be leading that. So.
Oh, good. Well, they in trouble if you leading it, brother. 'Cause I know how you get down. Now, you know full well that this mayor has said that he will veto any legislation around punitive action on the chokehold, outlawing the chokehold. He said leave that to the police department to determine what a chokehold is and how it will be applied. He said leave it with them, and he'll veto any legislation around that being a crime.
Right.
So, we have to consider the source where this is coming from. He is trying to endear himself to the police department, and you know full well sometimes resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and some things like that can be thrown out by a judge who sees that there's not the accompaniment of a crime with that this is something that just might be used to criminalize the person. And Shashi McIntyre wrote a book a couple of decades ago about criminalizing a race, and I was blessed to be able to see her at the Slave Theater under the United African Movement. So I think this is all a part of a grand scheme to criminalize a race. So I'm glad to hear, brother, that you'll be leading a movement against this.
Oh, absolutely, brother. So we'll keep folks aware and everything else. And the other thing is, I don't know, did you speak about the past indictment that they have on that police officer, the black police officer that stomped the alleged perpetrator in Brownsville?
Yes, yes. I didn't speak about that, but I actually talked about the one that just occurred shortly before the show that Ken Thompson indicted the police officer,
Right.
the Asian police officer in Kyle Gurley.
It always amazes me how quick it is to indict non-white people are indicted quicker than it is when it comes to when the white population, when they do something wrong, and we are held to be examples. Not to say that they're not wrong and they deserve to be indicted, but it should be across the board.
So then Vernon, I'm getting from that that you're saying that it's not a coincidence.
No, absolutely not. You know, the laws have always been for us. You know, it gets changed around all the time. But I ain't gonna take up all your time, brother. I'm gonna let you go ahead on.
Okay, good. And to those that don't know, not only is this a co-founder of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Care, and he's one of our strongest members, extremely cultural, more cultural than I am myself. And just love that brother so much because the very things that he injects into 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement are the things that you see when you see us in person. You might not see Vernon all the time, but Vernon's energy, Vernon's contributions, you see it wherever you see me, myself, Noel, Julian, and so many others, Eric Josie and others. And Eric Josie, I hope you call in today because you need to call in, brother. You know, your buddy Ken Thompson did do something good, so hopefully you call in. But Vernon, brother, you know, always love the calls, and you know you're welcome to come up here anytime. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Okay, brother, I'm calling from Harlem.
Harlem, all right, strong, good, brother.
Yeah,
Question
I
or
just called
comment?
to let you guys know the comment is based on the civil rights movement. I was explaining to you guys January 26th, my trial started here in federal court for civil rights violations at the hands of NYPD. February 2nd, the verdict came in, and the verdict basically reads that it is okay for Caucasian officers, or officers in general, I should say, to lock minority people, black and brown people up, just for being in public, standing on a public sidewalk, doing nothing wrong.
Okay, were you convicted?
Yeah, well, actually, it was the civil portion. In the criminal portion, the case was dismissed.
Okay, well, brother, call our hotline, brother, and let us know. And whatever we can do, we'll do 718-455-9059. 718-455-9059. Give us a call and we'll see what we can do, all right?
Appreciate it, brother.
Okay, thank you. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Calling from the Rockaways.
Oh, good. Hey, brother.
How you doing, sir?
Good, brother. Good to see you.
You know, on the week of Dr. King's Monday's birthday, Mr. Norman Seabrook, head of correction, he must have got bitten by many snakes because he had four on his on WBLS snakes trying to talk to the community and them concerning police community, patrolling the community, and none of them got a welcoming. I never trust that man because he never settled for you when you were running for mayor. Also, shortly days after that, the Ferguson police commissioner had a meeting at the Apollo Theater commissioner here, and people of their sick minds was entertaining that company. I don't understand that. Last but not least, I was listening on the news the other day where they talk about they're going to be monitoring telephone calls. Well, they wasn't talking about their telephone calls. It's hours, and I believe that's because what happened in Ferguson, Missouri, after the assassination of Michael Brown. Last but not least, brother, you know the Promised Land is ready for us, but I don't think most of us ready for the Promised Land. Thank you.
Okay, brother, stay strong, and certainly my condolences go out to you and your family. I know that you've had some members of your family make their transition, and certainly our hearts go out to you. And your niece is something else. She's growing by leaps and bounds, and she's really showing all the qualities of a real leader.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the compliment, and I will let her know that you send kind words to her.
Right. Thank you, brother. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yeah, this is Brother Reggie Peavy from calling from Manhattan.
Oh, from the Freedom Party. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Good.
It's my pleasure to speak with you. I'd like to thank you for that outstanding monologue you did on Malcolm and Martin. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And my comment is in regards to being this Black History Month. We know that history was made in Newark during this Black History Month. Mayor Ras Baraka issued a proclamation of the city of Newark to in Alton's favor, Alton's Maddox favor. It was the first time that any mayor of any village or city had bestowed this honor on Alton Maddox, and especially for his pro bono work on behalf of the oppressed and the downtrodden. We'd like to give kudos to the Million Women's March for presenting this award to Alton
Right,
Maddox.
Sister Empress
And I just hang up
Filet.
and listen, thank you very much.
Hold on, brother. You still there?
Excuse me?
You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, give us an update on what happened Monday in court with Attorney Maddox.
Well, of course, Alton had requested a larger court for the people that would be joining him there, which was about 50 or 60 people. And the court was small, and he was on the outside. And by the time the judge picked up the paperwork on Alton, he read a little bit, and before Alton could get in the courtroom, he said it's adjourned to March 20th. Alton came in anyway, and they spoke for a moment. And afterwards, we all met in the corridor of the court there on the 8th floor. And Alton spoke about the fact that his wife, Leola, was taken off the lease, and this is a major problem right now. And we hope to get that resolved on March 20th. If not, we are planning to bring at least 1,000 people to this court. And after we leave the court, we'll be marching over to one of the Attorney General's office or the District Attorney's office and letting it be known that we want to arrest these public officials who are.
Okay, let me ask you a couple of quick questions before you hang up. Is it accurate that Alton is hasn't been able to practice law in 24 years?
Is it accurate? He hasn't been. Say again, please.
That he hasn't been able to practice law in 24 years.
That is correct.
Is it also accurate that they have not found any single criminal act or crime that he has done that would put him in that position to not have a license?
That is also correct.
Is it also correct that no former client has ever made a complaint about Alton Maddox?
That is 100% correct.
Is it also accurate that the state legislature has never went before a legal board and asked for somebody's license to be removed? Is that the first time?
That was the first time in history that took place.
Isn't that somewhat strange that they would do something like this without the report of any crime or misdeeds on behalf of any Attorney Maddox and any client?
That is very true.
So it's safe to say that some of it had to do with his outstanding pro bono work and being able to win cases that others considered unwinnable. Is that right?
That is so true.
And to lead a community and to teach and uplift a community with a legal vantage point, as well as teaching military tax and another, certainly someone that was uneasy for some forces in this city and country. Is that right?
That is so true.
So it's safe to say that Attorney Maddox is not guilty of anything, and so it's up to our people to forge ahead to make sure that he can practice law again. Is that right?
100% correct.
Okay, then, brother, then that's what we need to do.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, brother.
Okay.
Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hello.
Hotep. Yes, sister, speak.
Yes, my name is Vernetta Nelson.
Where you calling from?
I'm calling from Manhattan.
Okay.
And it's a pleasure to see you on television, and I voted for you.
Thank you, sister. Love it.
But my question to you is, I'd like to have some input from you because we need a national drum. And what I mean by that is the brother that called before said that now they're trying to legislate being stopped and made into a felony.
Vernon Wells.
That, the fair housing law is being determined by the U.S. Supreme Court. And there are other things that are so important that's going on in Ferguson and other places around the country. But we're not in the know because we don't control the media. And I want to know from you, how can we get our papers to have a national drum where everything that's detrimental to the well-being of our community is publicized so that we are educated and we know what's happening. the reason why they're able to overcome and get and take advantage of it is because they get to do these things and not let us know. And our papers are not serving us in giving us the important information that's not only going to affect us today, but our children's children. And this is crucial. I want to know if you have any thoughts on how we can nationalize the information that needs to be out in the ethos for our people.
Okay, well, here's what, in terms of a national drum, certainly that has its own challenges because the means of communication are controlled by the white power structure. But I would say that through social media, it gives us at least a way to make things happen. We have a brilliant sister in the United African Movement, Keisha Forrester, who's brilliant at this, and we have others in place, and certainly Brother Reggie, who just called, is good at that. So we're going to have to use that. And we have people like Sister Filet. We have Utrice Lead, Sister Filet from the Million Women's Movement. We have Utrice Lead and others that's a national drum. So we're going to use those things, blog, talk, radio. We got to use social media and all the things that we have, because there was a day we had black radio that went across the country, and we had disc jockeys that did these sort of things, black talk. But while it's being diminished, we have to use the things that we have. Marcus Garvey organized millions of us without any type of communication back then, and we had the Pullman car porters dropping off papers all through the Confederacy, all through the South, the Pittsburgh Curry and all them things. So we have to go back to the tactics that it'll take to get the word out. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Next caller. I wonder what happened to Eric Josie, but in any event, I'll say that we have to, as the sister said, we have to be able to communicate with each other. There were rebellions and insurrections on slave plantations that happened, and the next plantation down the road wouldn't even know about it, and the white folks might know, but the enslaved Africans didn't know, and so we didn't have that kind of drum beat, and so in that light, we have to have communication. While we can move around and from city to city and can move around, we need to always organize wherever we're at, whoever we're calling. We need to know what's going on and have updates on Ferguson. We have to know on what's going on in Staten Island. And certainly Attorney Maddox has stepped forward to defend Ramsey Order, and we need that type of activity, because if we don't have that, then where are we? Because with all these black lawyers we have in New York, nobody stepped forward and said they're going to take care of Ramsey Order pro bono, because it's his videotape that exposed what happened to Eric Garner. And so the National Action Network has a office out there in Staten Island, but not one person from the National Action Network has yet, in four appearances that Ramsey Orders had in court, and they haven't showed up to none of them. And that's just disgraceful. How can you wait, and we already know a deal has been cut with the de Blasio administration that probably by next summer they'll be cutting a 7-8 digit number check based on the National Action Network controlling black folks and making people behave so that that family will get paid and everybody will go home happy, and them cops, of course, will keep their jobs. So it's just disgraceful to be in a position where you have Ramsey Order, who made all of this happen by videotaping it, and he's been victimized. 24 hours after the medical examiner characterized this as a homicide, he was arrested. So I'm saying that we have to get better. We have to organize, and as Noel likes to quote Kwame Ture all the time, we're not poor, we're just poorly organized, and this is what we have to do. We have to organize. Is the next caller on? And it's hard to see. Well, in any event, let me just say that want to commend CMOTAP for a great series that they're running every Sunday, 3 o'clock at the Clark House for the next 10 to 11 weeks. There'll be debates within our community on whether it's like Garvey, Du Bois, Mary Clyde Bethune, Harriet Tubman, and others, and even there's going to debate, including Condoleezza Rice, which would be very interesting. And I had a debate this past weekend with Omar Wally Clay from the December 12th movement. I debated on him. I defended Martin Luther King's rightful place in our history as Omar Wally defended Malcolm, and it was an interesting debate. In any event, want to thank our producer, Veronica Kidd, Nat Woods, and want to again wish Godspeed to my co-hosts in their absence. And tomorrow night we have Reverend Dillon, United African Movement, 1061 Atlantic Avenue, reinstate the automatics. Peace.